So, Lori and I have been dating for almost 34 years, married for almost 32.
And that would be 35,
was
right?
it 35 in January?
3 years.
Yeah, that's right.
plus
We'll be 35 in
32.
January.
Mhm.
And our first date, we went out. I picked her up, and she was scared to death of me because I had a reputation that was completely unwarranted, no matter what she says.
No, he had earned that reputation, I assure you.
But I talked her into going out with me. How about that?
It's one smooth talking
Who's
man
got the
right
mojo
there.
right here, baby? So anyway, we went out, and so I was going to pick her up much earlier, and then she said, no, let's just go see a movie, because she didn't finish the sentence. She was thinking, because I've heard about you. But anyways, we went to see a movie. We went to go see Out of Africa, which is a movie about Africa. I don't remember much else about it.
It's about that Karen woman in Nairobi, and the really fun part, it was almost foreshadowing a prophecy, because we ended up going to that lady's house in Nairobi.
Karen.
Karen, yeah. And so I think that was kind of cool that Out of Africa was our first date, and then we went there and
We
saw
went
it.
into Africa.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but anyway, we love going on dates, and I like going on dates differently than she does. Because I would like go on a date like every 15 minutes, because I have ADD. But so anyway, what's one of your favorite dates?
That one, now that you brought that up.
The first one?
Yeah, that ended up well, didn't it?
Yeah, baby. How about that?
So, one of the things that I told Arthur that I realized, I'm not big into going out every week. That whole thing of let's go get dinner and a movie and all that kind of stuff. I told him, I said, I like trips. So let's go somewhere.
That's called expensive dates.
Yes, and so here we have got an expensive date. Yes. So, but if you save up for it, right? And if you get your kids all grown, that helps too. So
Keep telling yourself that.
So anyway, one of the things that Arthur and I love to do that we just never saw this coming to kids from Gastonia, North Carolina.
Nerd alert, here it comes.
We love to go to art museums. And
you said it.
yeah, we like art museums, we like art. And also I love going to the ball game with Arthur. And so that's one of my favorite dates.
Yeah, I got to tell everybody this just real quick, because I've told y'all that when we go to the ball game or demolition derby, which is like her favorite thing to do, go to demolition derby because her inner redneck comes out.
Listen, if you are stressed, demolition derby will take care of it.
Oh, God, therapy at the derby. So anyway, and so occasionally, because she's little, I'm like 5 times as big as she is, and so she's little. She's my short, hot wife, and so we'll go somewhere, and so somebody stands up in front of her and she can't see, and so she'll tell them to sit down. And I'm like, we're fine,
I'm polite about
they'll
it.
say
I'm
something.
not
They'll say
mean.
something they shouldn't be saying, like, "Gosh darn it!" And so she'll say, "You can't use that kind of language here." And and what she does before she does all this stuff, what she does is first she looks at them, and then she looks at me, and she goes, "I think he could take them." That's what she does.
True.
And so I'm like, whatever. So yesterday, we're at the Georgia Tech Clemson game yesterday, and there's a guy about 3 or 4 rows behind us, and he's being a little bit
He's very loyal.
energetic.
Very loyal to Georgia Tech.
Yes, very inebriated. And so anyway, he's saying some things. I'm just kind of laughing at him because I'm like, they can hear you because there's nobody here, and we're close to the Clemson bench, and they're going to get mad, and I'm just telling you, they're going to run the score up on you, and what do we do?
It was entertaining.
Yeah.
It really was.
But anyway, so I'm sitting there right beside her, and she texts me a series of numbers, and I said, what is this? And she leans over, she says, that's the number for security to come take care of this people back here. And I'm sitting there going, I didn't want to get into it right then. I'm like, what's happening here? I mean, do you think the old man has lost a step or something? Because you think I can't take that guy? I mean, he's drunk. I'm thinking I can take care of him. And now I'm completely emasculated right here at the Georgia Tech game because, you don't think I can take this guy anymore.
This guy was as big as you, and he had buddies. So it would have been like 5-1. So I just wanted to have that.
I ain't
number
as good
ready
as
in
I
case
once
we knew.
was, but I'm as good once as I ever was. I'm just telling you. So, whatever. We got to start because we could talk about toilet paper and other things, but we should start.
All
right. So here's the deal. We're in the middle of a series in 1 Peter, and we didn't just stop and say we're tired of doing this 1 Peter series and talk about marriage. But right in the middle of 1 Peter, Peter sort of pivots and he talks about, hey, look, you got a lot of various trials, difficulties, things that are going on in your lives, things that make things difficult, stressful, cause anxiety, all these kind of things are happening. And he says, but here's what's really important. He said, don't lose sight of who you are and who Christ made you to be. And so he talks about for a little section of this book, he talks about being in subject to the authorities that God has placed over us, the governing authorities. He says, be subject to hupotasso, submit. Then he says, submit to your employers. And he says, and not the people, but the offices. Because what's happened is God has put us in a place and he has decided that he wants us to live in the south side of Atlanta, in Noonan and LaGrange and everywhere in between. And he says, this is where you live. So you don't have to submit yourself to the person, but to the office, because God has established the government. He has established the way our employers, and he's also established marriage. And he says, so in the same way, he says that you submit to government and employers. He also says, and don't leave me, okay? He says, wives, you should submit to your husbands. Not to every single man, but to your husband. Okay, don't leave me. Stay with me. Lori talked about that a lot last week and explained what was going on. So if you missed that, I would really encourage you to go back and take a look at that, because from a woman's perspective, I think she did a great job of explaining what that looks like. So that's the context. Let's jump in and pick up where we left off last week. So this is 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 1. So remember last week we talked about this. Likewise, wives, likewise is just as we're subject to employers and to the government, we're submit to women, to your own husband, not to every single man, to your husband. So that, why? Even if some do not obey the word, because he's talking in the context of a lot of women that he's talking to have married men who are not Christ followers. He says, but if you will do these things, one of the things that happens is you might draw them into a relationship with the Lord, which is good for you, good for them, and brings glory to God. It says, they may be won without a word by the conduct of their wives, when they see your respectful and pure conduct. And then he goes on. He says, do not let your adorning be external, the braiding of hair and the putting on of gold jewelry or the clothing that you wear, but let your adorning be the hidden person of the heart with the imperishable beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, which in God's sight is very precious. For this is how the holy women who hoped in God used to adorn themselves, by submitting to their own husbands. So Lori talked about this last week, and she said, this is what it looks like to be a beautiful woman. And then there's an example. As Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling him Lord, and you are her children if you do good and do not fear anything that is frightening. And so she talked to some last week about why was Sarah such a powerful example for women, and kind of explained all that. Now, here's what's interesting to me. Peter takes 6 verses and he talks to women. And it's 6 verses, right? And there's detail and there's a story and there's an example and there's explanation, right? There's a lot of conversation. Men, we don't love conversation so much. He says, here, look, do one thing, and if you don't do it, this is what's going to happen to you. Because we like it to be very blunt and know how much trouble am I going to get in if I don't do this? We function very well that way, right? We understand that. And that's what he does. He says it's very simply like this. He says, likewise, husbands, live with your wives in an understanding way. Now check this out first. First word here, likewise. What does that mean? Husbands, submit to your wives. What? Yeah. Likewise, submit to the government, submit to the employers, wives to your husbands, husbands to your wives.
And like Jesus submitted to the Father. Likewise.
Serve one another. Philippians chapter 2. Consider others to be better than yourself. Do nothing out of vain conceit. We serve one another. There's not a hierarchy here. This is likewise, husbands, talking to us. He says, live with your wives in an understanding way, showing honor to the woman as the weaker vessel. So, what are we supposed to do? We are supposed to submit to our wives in such a way, serve them in such a way as they feel honored. Now, we love it when they show us respect, don't we, men? We like to be respected. They like to be loved. show them honor. And so when they serve you by showing you respect, there's this reciprocal relationship that happens when you say, I'm going to serve her with honor. And so these two things, what they do, they draw the marriage closer and closer and closer together. And although, guys, that might weird you out a little bit, you want to be in a place where you are in peace and harmony and love with your wife and not in a place of continual friction. And he says, here's what you do. You honor her as the weaker vessel since they're heirs of the grace of life. He says, look, understand. He said, you're not better than them. We are co-heirs of the grace of life. It's not that men are Christians and women are not. Men are better Christians than women. No, it's not what it says at all. Now, I would make the argument that there's got to be a chief among equals. Somebody at some point has got to make the decision, because otherwise the vote is always 1-to-1. So at some point you've got to say, hey, here's what we're going forward with. And Lori talked about that some last week. I talked about that some last week. Right? But here's what we're doing is that we are saying, look, in God's eyes, we're all equal, different roles. And he says, why are you doing this? Why are you showing her honor? So that your prayers may not be hindered. Now, I don't know about you, but there's a lot of things I want to ask God to do, a lot of ways for him to intervene in my life. I mean, for financial blessings, for taking care of my children, for taking care of Jonathan and Anna and Becca and Josh and Hannah, and say, look, take care. I want you to bless them and prosper them, and I want you to do great things in their lives. If I'm not honoring Lori, God's like, no, I can't hear you. What? Huh? Excuse me. I want him to lean in toward me, not to go, no, I don't want to hear what you've got to say. I'm not manipulating God, but I'm being selfish when I'm sitting there going, I don't care about her. Does that make sense? All right, we got all that? Perfect. All right, so let's do some application on this for just a few minutes. So I got a few ways to talk about how can you honor your wife. And so if you're not married, these are some great things for you to look at and say, hey, is this man I'm thinking about marrying, this man that I'm dating, is he honoring me in these ways? If you are married, you don't have to make a checklist and go home and say, hey, listen, you're doing good on these 3, but these other 5 here, you got to straighten up. Okay, that's not going to go well for you. Let the Holy Spirit take care of that. Okay, but here's the thing: is say, hey, how can honor my wife? And when you do this, listen, I'm not going to tell you anything today that is difficult to do. Everything I'm going to suggest to you today is simple, it's powerful, and it will bring about a change in your life and in your marriage and your relationship between you and your Heavenly Father.
And can I say this, that Arthur and I don't have a perfect marriage. We've had those times where, I'll be honest, I've fantasized of, well, I'm leaving, and what city am I going to go live in, and I'm, free and all that kind of stuff. We've had lots of really hard patches. We've had a lot of counseling where I'm grateful that Arthur was humble enough, because a lot of time it's the man that won't go to counseling. Men will pay for someone to coach them on their golf swing, but when it comes to coaching you on your marriage, you're like, oh no, I don't know, I'm not that. So I encourage you in that, be willing to let someone coach you. But for the women that are sitting there cringing, that are going, my husband will never do this, my husband will never ever do this, keep praying. Also know, I had a counselor tell me once that they had learned in their experience that often when the wife started changing, getting more healthy emotionally and spiritually, that husbands would change as well. But you see that in that submissive manner. So let me encourage you in that. If you know your husband, I know some of you do. You know some of your husbands are hard-hearted, and you're sitting there going, he's never going to do any of this. He's never even going to listen to this. I want to encourage you that, because I used to think that about Arthur. Because when we were first married, we even talked about that. You kind of came into the marriage as a boy who shaved, and never quite, at the beginning, didn't step into manhood and into this role. So anyway, okay. I hope it's okay I said that.
Yeah, I think it's right. And I would try to say as humbly as I can, but I think I'm a lot better man than I used to be.
Absolutely.
And I think that don't don't give up on praying for your husband, because God can change his heart. You cannot. And I would also tell you this, because we're talking about a lot of stuff today we haven't said anywhere else at this service. But, you know, if you're dating someone or you're thinking about marrying someone, you think, well, I'll change him. You will not. You will not. You are setting yourself up for heartbreak, because you're not going to be able to. God may change his heart, but you're not going to be able to. And the more that you nag him, the more angry he's going to get. And you think, well, I can do it. I've changed other men. I can change him. I'm just telling you, I talk with people who've got bad marriages all the time. It doesn't work. So anyway, on that happy note, let's talk about this, right? I was really excited this week because people broke up with each other this week who were dating. So it was a good week for me. No, seriously. I would rather you break up when you're 21 years old than go through a divorce when you're 35. I mean, that's a no-brainer.
Or when you're 35 years old and get a divorce when you're 46.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter the age. Yeah.
Oh, God. I'm Rabbit Trail City today.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about this. Here, how do you honor her? Honor her spiritually. What am I talking about? You are the leader of your home. You are the spiritual leader of your home, men. That's what you do, right? It's not her job to disciple the children. She can help you. It is your job. It's not her job to disciple herself. It's your job. Listen, it's your job to say, hey, you know what? It's Sunday. It's church time. So on Saturday night, we're getting ready because tomorrow is important. We're going to go worship together. Not, hey, you want to go to church? No, we're going to church tomorrow. We're leading. That's what we're doing, men. That's what we do. And if you're at home and you're doing church online together, that means, hey, listen, we're all getting together and we're going to watch church together. That we're doing our Crest Kids stuff together and we're doing our family worship stuff together. If you're here on campus on Thursday night, or if you're here on Sunday mornings, then it's like, hey, listen, we're going to get to church together. It means that, hey, listen, when there's an opportunity to serve someone, that as you lead as a family, hey, here's something we're going to do. That's not your wife's job. She can help you with it, but you are the spiritual leader. You pray for her. You ask her, hey, how can I pray for you? You spend time with her. You listen to what's going on with her.
Make it easy for her to go to Bible study.
Yes.
Support her in that.
I mean, every now and then, if you've got smaller kids, say, hey, sweetheart, what can I do to take care of the kids so that you can go do something with some other ladies who are going to help her grow spiritually? Listen, children are a gift from God. Don't ever look at that as work. It is not babysitting. You get to hang out with your kids.
It's parenting.
Yeah.
That's a pet peeve of mine when men say, I'm babysitting the kids. No, you're not.
I used to love it when my kids were younger and Lori would go to a Bible study on Tuesday morning, Thursday morning, whatever that was. I would load up the kids and put them in the car and we'd go to McDonald's and get breakfast. It was a win. I thought it was great. They got all the pancakes they wanted and I could hang out with my kids. But honor her spiritually, honor her emotionally. Don't listen, men, quit pouting. Just quit. I mean, honestly, we're much better at pouting than women are. And she'll say something to you and you're like, fine. But you don't say that, but you're just going to sit over there and say, I can sit here, I can tough this out. And you just sit there and you just scroll on that phone forever, or you'll watch TV and say, look, I'll win because I'll make her crack. She'll come over here and tell me she's sorry. No, that's sorry. Don't do that. Here's what you do. You go over and say, and Lori said this last week, you go over to her and you say, I'm sorry, I was just thinking of myself. How can I help you? That's funny. People stop breathing.
You heard that too. Y'all, that's write that on a card, put it in your pocket. That is a treasure to have. It brings down an argument like that, and you can go into discussion instead of no.
Quit trying to win the argument. You want to win the argument, or you want to be married? And if I have to speak to you and just golly, it's like having to kick through the door here for just a second. Look, that divorce you're thinking about is going to cost you $500,000. Mm-hmm. I'm not playing around. I'll show it to you.
Divorce is very expensive.
It's not worth it.
It follows you the rest of your life. financially.
So, anyway, I'm not going to say it. But anyway, so take care of her emotionally. Take care of her emotionally. Take care of her physically. Honor her physically. Don't threaten her. She should never feel like that you're going to physically harm her. Honor her physically by protecting her, that when she goes somewhere that you're going to take care of her, that you know that if somebody's going to be a problem, that you know how to text the stadium security to get them over to help you out. All right? That's what I'm talking about. That means when you're in the middle, that means that maybe you walk around before you go to bed at night, you make sure all the doors are locked, that you're the one who turns off all the lights, that you're making sure that all that kind of stuff is taken care of before you go to bed. And when that in the middle of the night, that strange noise comes and wakes you up, and you're sure somebody's in the house, that means you roll over to her, tap her on the shoulder, and say, "Would you go check on that? Because I don't want to get out of bed."
I especially love the roll over her part.
Yeah, that's a good part, right?
Make sure she has a safe car. Make sure she feels that when she goes into a dark parking lot to get in her car, that it's going to start. That's physically.
Yeah. This next part is PG-13. So if you're under 13, just pause the video for a minute. About 3 minutes, I'll be back to you. All right. Next part is sexually. Here's what I'm talking about. Listen, don't demand things from her. She does not owe that to you. Do not take that from her. That is a gift. That is not a demand. It is not something that you are owed. You do not have needs. You have needs for love, acceptance, worth, and security. That's what you have needs for.
Food, water, and shelter. We didn't list that one as a need. It is not a need. You don't die if you don't have that.
Yeah, you'll live. Mm-hmm. So don't manipulate that from each other. Don't try and control one another to try and get that. Don't try and work a system to make it happen. Be a one-woman man. Don't look at another woman. Don't look twice at another woman. Don't look at a woman on your phone, on your TV, on your computer, at the office. Don't have a conversation with somebody. Don't talk to someone. Don't listen to someone. You don't need that. If she feels, these things I'm talking about, if she feels honored, she will be around you as much as you want her to be around you. And one other thing you need to know about really quickly is because affection is very important to a woman. Affection, not important to men. Affection is I am physically showing you that I love you by touching you. So you need to learn these 3 letters. NST, non-sexual touching. That means that sometimes you reach over to hold her hand, and that's it. Because men are sitting and go, okay, I'm holding her hand, now what happens next? That's what men think.
Listen to him laugh.
I know. All right. And see what she really thinks is, this is nice. I really like him holding my hand. And you're thinking, I'm holding her hand. I tell you what else I'm going to hold in a minute. NST, non-sexual touching, right? That means that maybe you sit close beside her on the couch and watch a movie so that you can sit close beside her on the couch and watch a movie. That you walk up behind her in the kitchen and you rub on her shoulders for a minute. And she goes, that feels nice. And you go, I know it does. And that's it. Mm-hmm. It's not a, hey, this is step A, let's move to step B. No, and listen, and I'm telling you, this would help ease some tension that some of you have sexually, men. If you would say, when you go up and you put your hand on her leg, say, hey, sweetheart, just a little NST.
That is so romantic. Oh, boy. Woohoo.
I'm telling you, but for some of the women in the room and online, it would resolve tension in your marriage.
Yeah.
Because you're thinking every time he touches you, oh, my goodness. Mm-hmm. Not interested in that right now. All right? PG-13 segment over. All right. Next thing, we got to hurry along. I'm talking too much. Verbally. Honor her verbally. What am I talking about? Watch what you say to her. Watch how you say it to her. She is attracted to you through her ears. Every woman is. Okay, men, we're attracted to women physically. There's a woman that you fell in love with the woman that you're dating, a woman that you married, and somewhere between her hair and her toes, there's something on her body, and you went, dang, I like that. And she knows what it is most likely, but you ought to ask her just so that she'll have to make you say it because it'll be kind of funny and awkward for you. But anyway, you saw something on her and you went, I like that a whole lot. And so you think that she's attracted to you physically. So you get real concerned about, and visually, so you get real concerned about your clothes and your appearance and your job and the way you cut your hair and how you smell. Although she would appreciate you taking a shower a lot more often than you're willing to be honest. And so so she is not attracted to you that way, though. See, what happened is you talked to her, and the way you talked to her made her fall in love with you. And you may have had 37 different men say, I love you, but when you said, I love you to her, she leaned in and goes, oh, man, I love you too. And so be careful how you talk to her. Be very careful how you talk to her, because the things that you say to her can end up being a curse to her.
Don't ever call her a name. Don't ever place a name on her. We don't call each other names. When you call her a name, or when you call your husband a name, either way, you're placing a curse on them. And when you do that, they will eventually become the name that you called them. So if you're calling your wife a slob, or if you're calling your wife lazy, whatever stupid, whatever you're calling them, she will become what you've called her. Husband is a gardening term, and I enjoy being in the yard and growing things. And you know what happens when you have some beautiful flowers and you have to fertilize them, you have to water them, you have to make sure they're getting the right amount of sun, you might have to put some insecticide on them, whatever, so that you have this beautiful garden. So if you equate that with men being the husband of their wives, you have been given a garden that you are supposed to cultivate. And if you are not taking care of her needs, she will reflect that. She will reflect that she is not loved. And so it is a man's responsibility to make sure that she is loved. And just in the same way that you can put curses on your wife, you can also bless her with your words. And you can tell her, you are beautiful and you are lovely, and I appreciate this in you and that in you, and saying all those words. And you know what that'll do? That'll just stir that up, and that will increase in her as well. So when you're telling your wife you're beautiful, she begins to feel beautiful, and then she starts looking beautiful and acting beautiful. Does that make sense?
Yeah, tell me about older women.
What part about older women are supposed to so the older women are supposed to teach the younger women, but you can see older women, you can look at them and you can tell whether they've been loved in their life. You can tell women, you can look at a woman, and I mean, a great example of this is a prostitute. You can tell when they have been beaten up and abused and neglected, and you can tell when a woman has been loved, and it begins to show.
On her face.
It'll show on your face. You know, women who've been loved, we all get wrinkles, but are they smiling wrinkles, or are they fear and anger and sad wrinkles and frowning wrinkles? And
so we have the opportunity, husbands, to grow a beautiful rose of a wife, or you can grow a withered rose. And you see these women who are in their 70s sometimes, and although they have bags under their eyes and they have wrinkles, you can say, wow, she is so beautiful. It's because her husband has spent his life speaking honor and beauty into her. And then you'll see other women, and you know, there's bitterness there, and it's because somebody treated them badly. I have to move on. Honor her financially means you take care of the bills, you take care of the things. It's your responsibility, men. I believe that. I think that women, if you want to work, go ahead and work. I think it's great. If you want to make more money than your husband, I think it's awesome. If you're a trophy husband, way to go. But here's the thing, is that I do this all the time with people who are getting ready to get married. And I say, well, listen, give me a list of all your potential expenses for after you guys get married, and they never have everything that they think they're going to need. And then I'll say, well, what's your income? And almost every single time, their expenses will exceed their income. And I'm like, look, guys, you are not going to be able to make this work. You're in debt day one. This is not so. You have to trim your expenses or increase your income. What are you going to do? Well, I don't know what we're going to do. I'm like, let me tell you what you're going to have to do. If you don't trim your expenses, and I tell the man, you're going to need to get a second job, not her. She doesn't need to work 2 or 3 jobs, and you say, well, I'd put in my 8 hours today. I'm done. No, we're not doing that. That's your responsibility. I believe that's what the Bible teaches, that men, that we say, that's what I'm going to do, that I'll make the choices I need to take care of her. And so financially we're honoring her. Practically we're honoring her, meaning we're taking care of all the little things that need to be taken care of, making sure that the car runs, making sure that if there's a repair that needs to be done at the house, let's figure out a way to get that done, that she feels safe and taken care of. Parentally, it means that you are sharing the parenting opportunities with her, and that she is not the parent and you get to play with the kids after they've had a bath and had their pajamas on. No, it means that what you do is you are leading in that area as well, that you are being a parent. There are some things that only a father can teach his daughter, and only a father can teach his son. Don't give those opportunities up. Don't say, give those to your wife. Instead, let's teach our boys to be men and our girls to be women. Let's do that. We've got the opportunity to do that. Consistency, meaning that I'm going to look for opportunities to do this all the time. I ask Lori this question every now and then. When it crosses my mind, I say, hey, sweetheart, do you feel loved today? And sometimes she'll go, yes. And about half the time she goes, well, no, not really. And she'll tell me what's going on. And so I say, well, what can I? And then I'll say, well, how can I help with that? And I'm trying to not be a fixer and not say, well, what do I need to do to just so you'll be my friend? But instead, hey, what am I doing wrong? And I'm constantly learning things. And she and I, we grumble a lot. I mean, we had a great time yesterday. We had a lot of fun, but we were a little grumbly with each other and with the Georgia Institute of Technology stadium staff at Bobby Dodd Stadium because they are either have a bad sense of direction or are liars. But a whole other story for another day.
Just make up something so they'll go away.
Yeah.
That was it.
Who are these people? Why are they asking me questions? All right, so anything you want to say to with that?
No, I don't think so.
All right, awesome. All right, let's finish this up. So I've got eight marriage truths. I'm going to go through these in about 2 minutes. It's going to go really fast, okay? So number 1, husbands and wives are both under God's authority. So that means that it's not me and then Lori, and I tell Lori what to do, but we are both under God's authority. God speaks to me, God speaks to her. God leads me, leads her, loves me, loves her. Number 2, you will have independent thoughts and disagree. Speaking of the Georgia Institute of Technology stadium crew.
We got this one down pat.
We're really good
at number 2 right here. This one's, we
have independent thoughts and disagree about 37 times a day. Number 3, seek to influence and disciple rather than control, manipulate one another. My primary responsibility, one of my primary responsibilities on this planet is to disciple Lori and my children. One of her primary responsibilities is to disciple me and our children. And so there's other things that we do, but I don't want to be manipulating and controlling her because I, at one point, am going to give an account to God, and he's going to say, let me tell you how you did with Lori. And so I want him to say, well done, great job, way to go.
If you ever say to your wife, you are supposed to submit, you've already lost the battle. You're already in the control and manipulate phase. You should never tell your wife, you are supposed to submit to me. It's a gift she gives.
Yeah, I tried that as newlyweds.
Went well.
Yeah, went great. All right, number 4, sorry. Learn from each other. We should learn from each other. And she reads a lot, I read a lot. Sometimes it's books, sometimes online, sometimes it's scripture. But we're going to do that on a regular basis. 3 or 4 times a week, she's going to say, Arthur, this morning I was reading this. And she's going to tell me, and we're going to talk about it a little bit. And she's also going to tell me about weird dreams that she has 3 or 4 days a week too. Number 5, value the relationship over the issues. There is nothing to me that is more important than our relationship. It bothers me that she leaves things hanging on the doorknobs. It bothers her that I leave sweatshirts laying on the chair by our bed. It bothers people.
You don't have to elaborate on that. No, I think we're good. I think they get the point.
Okay.
Okay.
I was going to say something about the dogs, but I should keep my mouth shut.
Okay, so
All right.
number what?
Number 6, fight for unity, not victory. Fight for unity, not victory. Sometimes I'm just going to say this. Sometimes you're going to be stuck and you just cannot let go of something, and you just keep wanting to extend the fight. You need to know that sometimes it's a spiritual battle. Sometimes the adversary, the devil, is trying to get involved. He wants to divide and conquer. And so he's going to try and get in there sometimes, and just be aware of that, because sometimes what you need to do is you say, in the name of Jesus, I'm kicking you out of this conversation, and just so that you and your wife can have a conversation between you and your wife and the Lord, and get the devil out of the house. So do you want to say that?
The enemy is against your marriage. The enemy is actively trying to ruin your marriage on a daily basis. Don't think that that's just a thing that happens every once in a while to other people. He would love to see, when he damages your marriage, he damages your children, he damages your church, he damages it, just far-reaching effects. And so you have to fight for unity. And when there's spiritual warfare going on in your home, and let me say this too, part of the reason is because God's word says that marriages reflect the relationship of God with his church, and compares the church to being the beloved, the wife of Jesus, the bridegroom, and all that sort of thing. So sometimes it's not about you. Sometimes it is about the enemy coming after you. So how you identify when it's the enemy? When there's divisiveness, when there is division, that's how he works. He works by steal, kill, and destroy, and his language is lying. So if you are telling a lie, or she's telling a lie, I believe that anytime you tell a lie, that you are stating by your actions that you believe that you trust Satan more than you trust God. Because lying is the language of Satan. And so that is going to bring division. It's going to bring the opposite of victory, defeat, into your marriage. So fight for unity. Know that you're fighting together. You're on the same team.
And quit lying.
Quit lying. Lying's bad.
God, man up and tell the truth.
It's worse than you think it is.
Number 7, dominance causes destruction. Ladies, you shouldn't try and dominate your husband. And men, you should not try and dominate your wife. Don't do that. It's just going to cause destruction and division. Surrender leads to success. Surrender to Jesus. Surrender to one another. Number 8, surrender to success leads to success. Anyway, there's just a few short things right there. So we didn't do homework last week, so here's some marriage homework for you, or relationship homework even. And let me say this. I need to say this. This is really important. Men, if you are living with a woman right now, and she is not your wife, and you have children with her, you should marry her.
This week.
Mm-hmm. Listen, we can do this Tuesday afternoon, okay? It's easy. I'm really not kidding, okay? I haven't said this anywhere else.
We had a family one time, they came to church, Arthur said that they went off to Las Vegas and got married that week. They didn't have to go to Las Vegas, but they went.
Why not go to Vegas?
We're not kidding.
But no, because see, you can learn to be married to anyone. Don't believe this lie that you have to fall in love with just one person, and you're trying to hedge your bets in case things fall apart. Listen, quit being a pansy. Get the lace off your drawers and marry her. What you're doing is wrong. It's wrong to her. It's wrong in God's eyes. And I know I'll have some people stomping out of here mad, and my email address is amace@southcrest.church.
Wow, way to go, Arthur.
Okay? I'd love to talk to you about it. But no kidding. If you're living with someone and you're not married, you need to get married or get out. You are dishonoring her. I ain't got time to say what I want to say, but here's your homework. Anyway, plan a date night. Go out on a date. If you're married, go on a date night. or maybe a long afternoon, a place where you can be quiet. Maybe you can't get away right now, so you go get some takeout food and you say, hey, I'll meet you on the back porch tonight at 8:30. But work something out in the next week to 10 days where two of you can get together a little bit, because I want you to do a marriage checkup. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to put a list down of everything that you do over the course of a month. Because right now, most people that I talk to, you're a little frantic with your life right now because there's so much uncertainty everywhere. And so what happens is we're just like this all the time. People are exhausted. People are more anxious than they ever have been. People are concerned. They're worried. Too much uncertainty in their lives right now. And so what happens, everybody's trying to survive. And so we've got a lot of stuff going on. And so I want you to put everything down, that has to be done. Every single thing over the course of a month or so. And then divide it into 4 categories. What's mission critical to our marriage? What's most important? What's significant, strategic in our marriage? What's important but not critical? And what's sort of a lower priority stuff we just don't, not really all that important? Because I think this is what's going on with most married couples that I know right now, is that you're spending 80% of your time doing this stuff right here. And you feel like that you're disconnected from one another, you're disconnected from God, and you're like, this is crazy because I need the Lord more than I ever have in my life, but I feel further away from him than I ever have. It's because the devil has got you so busy that you've lost your intimacy with God and with one another, because you're doing all these things right down here that are not important. And so what you need to do is say, look, I want to spend 80% of my time doing this stuff. What's most important for our marriage? What's most important in my relationship with the Lord? Does that make sense? So let's prioritize this stuff and let's get things back instead of out of whack. Let's get things in whack. Does that make sense? All right.